Hi guys, how are you doing? So today I'm going to share with you another topic, another subject, something that I've been collecting for the last 2 years. Um, as you can see, and it's probably very suggesting by the photo that you can see, we are going to talk about braids and horse manes being braided by supposed Sasquatch. So these types of braids are also called around the world by wing braids, witch braids, fairy braids, so sometimes associated with the wind, about these braids being casually done by the environment around the horse, by the horse being laid down on the ground, by rubbing, by licking, by their mane being entangled with dirt, with sticks, and sometimes the witch or the fairy knots. The name comes from the folklore because people think that there are supernatural things that occur to these horses, so these braids are done. And for people to think that, people have probably a strong belief because they have the experience that something strange happened. And we are going to talk about that later. So, I'm going just to speak briefly about this picture. This is a picture from two horses, two Mustang horses from North America, wild animals. So people probably think that only stabled or horses in barns are getting braided, but I think there is not sufficient work done in North America with these wild herds, and from the what I can see in being this side of the other side of the pond in Europe, I can using the most common work tool that most researchers have to this date, and one of the best, it's Google. So when just Googling by and using what I usually use to do my research on Google, I have my techniques, of course, and these braids are easily seen in some of the horses. So as you can see, there are at least on the horse, there are at least like 3 or 4 dreadlocks that come twisted together and very thick, and in the end they get a final knot that is done with another smaller and thinner braid that is usually going along with the thick deadlocks, and in the end it gives a final knot to put all thing in place. So no one better to explain you a little bit more about these braids. It's Harriett McFinley, and she have given an awesome interview to the YouTube channel A Flash of Beauty. So in the end, I will show you a brief moment and in the beginning of our interview. So I would advise you guys in the end to go and watch the whole thing on A Flash of Beauty YouTube channel and give them a like and subscribe if you want. They have awesome interviews. They have been uploaded to YouTube, awesome interviews from their last 2 documentaries, and they are worth listening. Okay, so let's see it.
Well, this story all starts with Mr. Don Monroe, and that is him up there. He has been a Bigfoot researcher for over 60 years, and this was 40 years ago. He stumbled on the phenomenon of the Bigfoot are braiding the manes of the horses. And when I first heard it, I 100% did not believe it. I thought he was a nut, and he's a nut, but I believe it now. And anyway, so he gave me all of these pictures, and it shows where the horse's hair is braided. You can, that one especially, you can really see the braid. right there. And so anyway, over the past 40 years, he has collected pictures from everywhere about the braided horses. And the interesting thing is 90% of the horses that are braided are females. And the females, they braid their mane and it's braided so tight that most of the time they have to cut that little piece of braid out because you can't get it untied. And if you look at this braid here, you can see where it's cut right across the top because they couldn't get the knots out. And a lot of them, that one there's cut also. And so anyway, out of all these braids, these are from all over the country. And these are northern Nebraska. And you can see there's the braid in her hair, female. And as I said, on the males, they braid their tail. So on this picture over here, the back of the horse's leg is black, but his tail is braided all the way down. So anyway, then Igor Burtsev, he is an anthropologist and he lives in Moscow, Russia. And he had kind of a similar experience. He first discovered the braided horses in the Caucasus region in Russia. And so if you look up there, that picture is from Russia. And you can see the braid that he's holding, and it's on her mane. And then when he came home, this was around Moscow, there's another horse with her mane braided. And so that got Igor hooked. And so he does investigations about the horses all the way from Russia, clear across the country to Siberia, and some of the horses around Ukraine and places like that. So he's been investigating the horses since 1965, long time. Then a lady sent me this picture.
Okay. Okay. So just a sneak peek into the interview. You should go and see it. It's awesome. Harriett surely knows what she's talking. She's collected a lot of evidence, and who knows, someday I can visit a small museum, very complete but small museum about Sasquatch. I would love to, and bring her some photos from Portugal, Spain also, and to put Europe on the map on that museum also. So I'm just going to show you footage and photos that I gathered on the last years researching areas of Sasquatch.
So as you guys can see on the photos and on the footage, that mare there has it's completely obvious the laced mane, and you can see the knots. I could film it, I could photograph it clearly. I would love to take to get the owner, to get the hair, but it's very difficult to know who are the owners because they let the cattle around the forest. There are no wolves and no bears in this part of the Pyrenees usually. So, and even this kind of cattle, they can defend themselves. So that mare over there, you can see there, that also has some. Good morning, guys. So the night was calm. I haven't heard anything, but I have slept all through the night. So I left my recorder recording all night. I don't know if it got something. Maybe it did. And now we are going to go up there in the mountain and explore and try to see. I found a mare up here that had amazing braided mane. I tried to film it and to photograph it, but it was very late, and my zoom camera doesn't do well with low light, so the footage is not so good. And I will try to film it and to record it and to take some photos today with good light. The sun is almost up, and the sky is blue, so it's going to be a beautiful day. So maybe we have luck. See here, amazing place in the Atlantic Pyrenees. Olha aqui mesmo na pontinha da trança. Incrível.
coisa. Esta aqui é que, olha lá. É um laço, esta lá. Não, agora.
Três, estás a ver?
Sim.
They have three braided trenches or branches. So, like the flags in North America, at least four almost. Yeah. E aqui é ela. Podes tirar foto. Tira foto. Esta aproximar, a ver, ela está frio, eu não posso puxar aqui.
Está bem, calma. Esta aí, vou tirar fotografias.
Ok.
So, as you guys have seen, it's pretty difficult even to understand how those braids and those terminal knots wrapped around the dreadlocks are made only by the wind. So I guess most people, and probably most women that are the ones that keep their hair long, they know that the wind cannot do such things. And of course, we get on long hair, we get knots, we get the hair entangled, even during the night, just by sleeping, but nothing like that. That you can clearly see that is made with two hands, with two opposable thumbs. So whatever is doing that has the same ability with their hands to weave and to braid. And weaving is also one of the particularities of Sasquatch. They also weave. They do it with dry grass. They do it with vines. They do it with a huge amount and a varied amount of species of plants. So I could show you a lot more photos. I've seen quite a few dozens of mares, mostly mares. And something very unusually, they seem to prefer the blonde ones, which is also a little bit strange, but maybe because they fancy the color. Maybe it's a in these particular species of working ponies. These are like ponies in the Pyrenees, but they are big. So you probably could call them working horses, but not as big as the ones in Germany or in some countries of Europe. They're the blonde maned ones are quite common, but I don't know if it's for us easier to spot the braids or not, but I have registered a good number of braids in these blonde mares. I've also seen horses with braids. I've not seen the tails like it is said by Harriett that usually males get the tail braided. I have not seen any tail braided, not even in horses, in male horses. They are not as common in horses, these braids, but male horses are not also as common in these herds in the mountain. They usually keep 1-2 stallions for a bunch of females. Don't know how many, 20, 10, I really don't know. So there are also less amount of horses, of male horses. In Portugal, I have also find this phenomena, not only in Spain and France. I know that all over Europe there are people reporting braids, and since the medieval times, because it's something that is written, it's on your myth and lore. Those fairy and witch knots. So, but in Portugal, I also found it. I went to the mountains in the north, and there are a particular race of horses, very ancient ones from Iberia called the Garranos, and the Garranos come from the Gaelic Gaerran, and those Garranos are living semi wild. They are not feral because they have their owners, but they are kept all year round in the mountain. They are only managed once per year, where they collect all the herd and they take the young to sell, or some of the young to sell, and they put the iron on the ones that they wish to keep with the mares in the mountain, and then they release them again. So only managed once. They have to forage for their own food and to protect themselves from wolves in the top of the mountains during all the year. So this species is very old, like I told you. There are even herds of mustangs in North America, particularly in the North California, I think. Devils something. I must check. Sorry, let me just check. Devil's Garden, okay. Okay, so I wanted to say the Devil's Garden herd. So it's somewhere around on the top north of the state of California. So Devil's Garden herd has a lot. Those horses, those mustangs there have a lot of genetic material from Garranos, from the time that the Spanish people and the Portuguese have taken the horses with them to the Americas. So to Central, South America, they breed them in some of the islands, and then they would sell them to North America. So a lot of blood of the mustangs in North America is Iberian blood. So Lusitano race, and Andalusian. I think it's a race in Spain. So Andalusian, Garranos, Lusitano, Soraya, all of the races of horses that there were on that time in Iberia during the conquistadores, during the expansion of the empire, the expansion of the Spanish Empire and the Portuguese Empire to South and Central and North America. So those Garranos in the north of Portugal living on the mountains, I really went there, spent like a few days in the mountains. They are very skittish. They are not like these big horses from the Pyrenees. They really don't give you any chance of petting them. If you approach like 100 yards or something like that on foot, and slowly they start to run away. So you have to sneak a little bit on them and play with the wind. So it's not an easy job to approach them. So to take photos and to see them clearly. But I managed to follow a few herds with mares, with 1 or 2 stallions, and I have seen the same braids, the same type of braids with the same 2 or 3 dreadlocks becoming together at the end tip by a smaller knot, done also with hair, not in any time it was done with a string or something like that. And by the way, in Spain, in Pyrenees, and in France, I've asked all the people there. The most of the horses are from the government, and some of them are from private owners. But the horses are managed like the ones in Portugal, just like once or two times in a year, all summer and spring in the top of the mountain, and then maybe with the snow they get into the valleys and they are fed there at lower altitude. But yes, like in Portugal, those Garranos, they had all of those braids, all of the same traits that the horses that are in barns, that are in stables. So, and that's very interesting because if you have horses that are used to run away from wolves, that are not managed, you simply don't have a way of anyone approaching the horses and do those kinds of things like a human could be. Many people are starting to think that maybe there are humans, maybe there are some festivities and people do that to their horses. I've asked everyone that I saw if they knew anything about those braids, then they said no, we don't do that. There are no festivities in the area that people do that. We don't know. They don't say it quite like that easy, that we don't know how those braids are done. They said it the wind. They said the wind and the sticks. So the same thing. Maybe their grandparents would have known and said that those were witch knots, fairy knots, but people nowadays, they just discard those hypotheses, those lunacy hypotheses, and the supernatural and the mythology gets put behind your back very quickly because of society and because you have to be accepted by society, so you cannot believe and say things like that. So I also want to thank to Dr. Igor Butsev. He has been a great friend, texting back to me all of my answers regarding this subject, regarding braids. We have been exchanging some photos, information. I've given them all the information I have about what I have found in the southwestern part of Europe. He was very interested in the Garranos, in the semi-wild herds of the Garranos in the mountains of North Portugal, because most around the world, most of these so-called witnesses and testimonies are from horses kept in barns. So when you have something like that, when you have clearly horses being braided that are wild, that run wild, you start to think, what what the hell is going on here, you know? So I want to give a huge thanks to Dr. Igor Burtsev. He was kind enough to send me this book that he published. This is a book written by Dr. Dmitry Bayanov, In the Footsteps of the Russian Snowman. And it was published by Cryptologos Publishers, which is the Dr. Igor Butsev is the director editor. So a huge thanks to Dr. Igor. I'm just going to, there's a chapter here, and I'm just going to read you something. So in 1925, M.F. Tishvili, an intrepid English school teacher, journeyed using 2 Argentine Creole horses from Buenos Aires up to the length of South America, Central America, and into the United States as far as Washington, D.C. He narrates the following experience, which occurred in the Colombian Andes. Victor, mentioned in the account, was an illiterate Ecuadorian peasant and was chiefly mozo. Mozo, it's like a boy that helps him carrying stuff. One morning when I walked the horses from pasture, I noticed that the one had his mane plaited or braided. I tried to undo it, but found it tightly knotted. I asked the boy Victor if he knew anything about this or if he had done it, and he immediately told me that El Duende, so the gnome or the elf, whatever you want to call it, had been with the horses during the night. I had never heard this name and asked for an explanation. In the meantime, a half-caste Indian with whom I had spent the night had come up and assured me that the boy was right. So in some parts of South America, the El Duende, it seems to be the responsible for these knots. In other parts of this planet, fairies are the responsible, then witches are responsible. And there's a lot of mythological things that people can and usually attribute to these kind of supernatural things that happen around horses. Sasquatch, of course, is also connected with these braids. I've personally seen these horses around the structures on the area that is active, on the area that are actively frequented by Sasquatch. And in this book again, In the Footsteps of the Russian Snowman, we have an account from, let me see, we have an account from Gregory Panchenko. So Gregory Panchenko, he was, I think he was Ukrainian living in Kharkov by the time. So he was a friend and also a member of the, let me see, of the Russian cryptozoology, Russian Society of Cryptozoologists, which the latest Marie-Jeanne Kaufman was the chairperson. So Marie-Jeanne Kaufman worked almost her life in the Caucasus and researching Sasquatch. A lot of information was collected by her, a big lady on the matter, and most people probably don't know her and don't know her name. So Gregory Pachenko, he was a biologist, and I think it was in 1991, August 25, Gregory Pachenko was told by someone when he was visiting the region where you can find the Almaty in the Caucasus. So Almaty, it's the name for Sasquatch and Bigfoot in a particular region of the Caucasus. But in the Caucasus, you can, it's like in the Pyrenees. Every valley has a different name. So Almaty is, I think it's called in the region of Kabarda. So Let me just see. I'm gonna read to you a little bit more from this encounter from Gregory Pachenko and this testimony, because this is the testimony that connects Sasquatch or Wildman to these braids. So on August 25, 1921, Gregory Pachenko have collected yet another portion of sighting evidence from the locals, encountering Almasti in Kabada. Was all set to go home when someone told him that an Almasti has been plaiting or braiding a Norse mane over the past weeks in a place called the Ravine of Kuruku. Being young and not as convinced as Burtsev and I of the process of self-plating, yes, because people by that time, some of the researchers were really thinking that those braids could happen naturally. So Pachinko decided to put off his departures, shouldered his pack, and hastily hiked to the several miles across the hills of the Kuruku. Having arrived at the place, he found a mare with a plaited mane and talked to the man in charge. This man, Ali Mukov, aged 60, guards the grain and machinery of a collective farm which are kept in a barn there, as well as the crop fields nearby. Pachenko had met with Mukov some days before, but the guard never mentioned the braiding business. Now, pressed by Pachenko, he admitted that the matter and related that he had two horses, a gelding which he rode, and the mare with a plaited mane and a sore hind leg. For each reason, she was not being used for riding. Over the previous 2 weeks, braids had appeared in the mare's mane time and again, but not every night. At first, Mukov tried to unplait them in the morning, but then gave up. To his surprise, Pachenko discovered a braid in the gelding's short mane as well. That evening, Mukov rode off on the gelding to spend the night in the village, leaving the key to the barn with Pachenko. Above the door of the barn, more than 3 meters off the ground, there was a paneless window used across to Mukov. According to Mukov, as an entry to the barn by whoever plaited the mare's mane. Getting ready for his vigil in the barn, Pachenko prepared his observation post under a couch standing by the wall, opposite a manger to which the mare was tied. Hidden from view by a blanket hanging down from the couch, he could see both the mare and the opening above the door. He left food gifts in the barn: bread, dried milk, sour milk, dried meat, Incidentally, the mare had no lactation. He had no time to prepare a control spot for footprints, and besides, he was not sure it would not deter a visitor. So here on this photo above, this is Gregory Pachenko, and on this photo you can see a photo of the real barn where everything happened. And down here you can see like two figurines, two illustrations showing what Pachenko saw during the night. So he saw an Almasti entering. He didn't saw it entering because I think he was sleeping. Then he woke up with the sound of something near the horse. So he saw like a shadow of a huge being with no neck, large shoulders, and narrow waist, by the mare, braiding her and making some squish sounds, some very weird sounds. And he stood there just seeing it. And then by the time I think the creature heard him, and the creature left. He said it was around 1.75 meters, 1.80 meters, so around 6 foot tall, and 6'1" at most. And then the creature left by that small window that was 3 meters above the barn, above the door of the barn, as we can see on this illustration. So this is an incredible account. I think Gregory spent a few more days there to see if the creature was coming on the next night. He never saw it again. But this is one of the most amazing accounts and testimonies of Sasquatch being responsible for braiding. And saying that I've been more vocal in my country, in Portugal, about Sasquatch. I've done a few interviews, and Portuguese people have seen them. Some people have contacted me with their own experiences. And a few weeks ago, and without any notice or in advance, a friend of my partner Vera was walking with her and telling about strange things that happened. She didn't knew anything about Sasquatch and about me researching Sasquatch. And she said to her, "Oh, you don't. I'm going to tell you something very strange that have happened to me. I don't know why, but my horse, and she lives by the mountain which I visit most often, and there are a lot of structures there, so it's an active place." And she said to her that her horse, which she uses to go to the mountain almost every week to and ride the horse there. It's a stallion. The horse in previous winters, and she said that it was generally during the winter. In previous winters, she has seen those braids in her stallion. And let me tell you that her stallion is on a barn, on a place that is closed, and it's not a farm, so there are no forests around the house, only other houses. So it's a village, and her house is in the middle of the village. And she swears, because she how do you call it when you she brushes, sorry, she brushes the mane of her stallion every day, every single day. She takes care, she gives him food, because he doesn't have a pasture to go every day, so she gives him food, she brushes the mane. And she said to me that those braids appeared during the night. In one day they weren't there, on the other day in the morning the braids were on the horse's mane. And she didn't freak out. She's used to some strange things on her life also. So she went to the internet and googled probable explanations, and she come across with one that came because of our language, Portuguese. Some of the explanations that she found was from Brazil. So something like a creature in Brazil, like very close to El Duende, something like a gnome or something like that, is believed in Brazil to do exactly the same thing, to braid horses during the night. And she took that explanation. I think she also heard from someone that bats can do that when they if they say they perch on the horse's neck, they can entangle the mane and do those kind of things. But first, bats only the only bats that perch on horses and cows' neck are the vampire bats from South America, because they really want to lick the blood and to bite and lick the blood. not the ones in Europe. They don't perch on horses' manes. They don't do that kind of things. And like you have seen on my photos, the perfection of the knots, the perfection of the twisted dreadlocks, all of that is not a casual, natural thing. It's done by hand. It's done by two hands at least with opposable thumbs. So anything humanoid is doing that. So I really don't think that anyone just jumps the fence of these Portuguese witness stables and go, and every night is going there to braid a horse. So you take it as it is. It's her testimony, and I would advise you to open your eyes to see around. If you know about structures around your area, if you are researching into structures, check the horses around. Ask people that have horses in nearby if they have experienced this, and you may be pleased with their answers. You may be shocked even if they start to tell you that those strange things happen and those braids are often seen on their horses' manes. So I hope you like this video. In the future I will be speaking probably more about this subject, about this line of research. I will always be researching this area also, these braids, and mostly in my country. If you like the video, I will be releasing this video just before New Year. So like we say in Portugal, you have to put your right foot into the new year in 2025. So a happy new year for you all, and take care. Bye bye.